Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Again, if you're joining us online, we appreciate you guys. And always remember there's a live person who's watching the stream and will interact with you if you need anything at all. Those of you who are here in the building, whether you're here for the umpteenth time or your very first time, anywhere in between, we're just thankful that you can worship with us. Today we continue a series called How to Be a Lifeguard, just to make sure, especially if it's your first day, we're not actually training you to be lifeguards. That's a metaphor. Nobody's going to get certified. I can't offer you a job at the end of it. But what it represents is that we are here on behalf of Jesus to help people in the world. The three things that we're focusing on, we're actually going to cover all three today in one way or another. How to be what some counselors would call a safe person. Somebody who's really focused on the other people in the relationship more than themselves. How to team up with other people who are that kind of a safe person. People that are trying to make the world better, trying to make church, trying to make the families, their friendships, their workplaces better. They're actively trying to help others, focus on others. And finally, how do we actually help others? What actually helps them? We're looking at a little bit of all three of those today. What we're really focusing on today is how to offer love. How to offer love in the biblical sense. And the first time love is actually mentioned in the Bible is Genesis 22:2. There's some Bible trivia for you. And it is when God says to Abraham, that I want you to sacrifice your son whom you love. And the Hebrew word there is ahava. And ahava is kind of the closest in Hebrew or Greek to our generic word love in English. Our word English word love is so generic, isn't it? It can mean anything. I love my wife. I love steak. I love the Vols. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it could be just like, what does that even mean? Okay? Ahava is kind of a generic term like that. It's you have affection, you have good positive vibes maybe toward that thing or that person. It could mean anything. It can be used as God's love or people's love for God. It can be used as romantic love. It's kind of a generic love. Okay, that's one. Then there's two other kinds of love in Hebrew throughout the Old Testament. The Old Testament, if you didn't know that, was written in Hebrew originally, with very few exceptions. And that's trivia. We don't need that. Anyhow, here's the two big words. Ahava is the most common. Another one is dod. And dod means sensual love. It means strong feelings, especially romantic or even sexual feelings. You see that one a lot in the book Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. That one's there and a few other places. But the one that is most common, the one that is most central to the whole Old Testament, especially any interaction with God, is this one, chesed. It's kind of hard to say, got to clear your throat a little bit. Chesed. And it's an others first kind of love. It's a choice you make. It's an action you take. It's a gift you give. And very consistently, this is the love that God offers to his people, and it's the love that he commands that we have. It's the love that is in the Old Testament translated, love the Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. It's others first love. That's the real stuff. And then in Greek, in the New Testament, which is almost the entire New Testament is written in Greek originally, there's several other ones. And I'll kind of race through these because Greek is so precise, this will give you a taste of this. There's philia, which is brotherly love and friendship and just kind of you like the people you hang around. There's storge, which is affection and family and community. It's like, I just positive vibes kind of love. There's eros, which is sensual, romantic, sexual, sort of like dod in Hebrew. There is ludus, which is playful, fun, flirtatious, innocent, kind of like how kids love everybody. You know what I'm talking about? They show up on a playground. Hey, you want to play? That's that one. Philautia is self-love. And that can mean like just your own I don't know, self-confidence or something like that. It can be either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the context, but that's that one. And then there's mania. Or mania in original pronunciation. You might have heard that one. It means obsession, okay? We still have like this or that mania, WrestleMania or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Okay? But again, throughout the New Testament, when we're talking about God loving people or any of the commands where Jesus tells us to love, it's consistently a different one. It's the word agape, which is an others first kind of a love. It is a choice you make. It is an action you take. It is a gift you give. Does that sound familiar? That concept? When we're talking about the love of God, when we're talking about the love that God expects his people to extend to each other and out to the world, we're talking about chesed, agape. We're talking about the others first, action-oriented, gift-giving, real love. Am I tracking so far? Okay, that's where we're headed. So it's really this simple. I'd love for you to say this simple sentence out loud with me. This is the bottom line. Real love focuses on others. That's it. When you're actually in the game because you really care about the person that you love, you're practicing chesed or agape. When you are giving a gift or doing an action or making a choice, and you're doing that on their behalf, you're doing that because you really sincerely believe that's the best thing for them in that moment. You're sincere about it. That is real love. And obviously feelings, pleasant feelings like affection or attraction or appreciation, that makes all the relationships more fun, don't they? We want those. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are great. And in relationships that's just filled with agape or chesed, kind of others-focused love, you're going to experience this more than any other kind of way you pursue love. But here's the problem. Healthy relationships don't thrive on us trying to get our needs met. The very second that we start focusing on trying to get our needs met is the very second the relationship stops being healthy. It starts becoming toxic. Eventually it becomes harmful to ourselves and the people around us. Real love requires sacrifice and hard work. Real love is faithfulness and forgiveness. Real love is sticking it out in the hard times as well as celebrating the good times. Real love is focused on others. And again, from the beginning, God has expressed this so clearly to us. Even that very fact that he created this world and created us in his image shows that he's got this others first focus because he really didn't need us. He didn't really need creation. He didn't need it to be as creative as it is. But that's where the story as we know it starts, is God creating this world and creating us in his image so that we are also creative, that we crave relationships with him and with each other, that we crave love. We have the capacity to love. We have the capacity to reach out in love the same way he does. Throughout the Old Testament, you see chesed being promoted, the idea of a covenant. The first one you see is even before love is mentioned, all the way back in the first couple pages of the Bible, you see marriage created. You see all these different kinds of covenants. All these different ways of here's how you put other people first on a consistent basis. You see God constantly identifying himself as someone who is faithful, someone who extends forgiveness and grace, but wants an ongoing relationship and wants to see some real change, wants to see us respond and become loving in the sense that he is loving. And then you get to the New Testament and you see Jesus. Jesus didn't just teach about love. That's one of the primary things he taught about. He showed us what it looked like. He modeled it, he commanded it, and he lived it out. Even his commands are acknowledging that. For example, John 15:12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Or in 1 John, by this it is evident who are the children of God and who are the children of the devil. Whoever does not practice righteousness, in other words, who does not actually live out the ideas that God has given us. This is what I consider right. This is real. This is good. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor is the one who does not love his brother. Agape, by the way, others first love. For this is the message that you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. In the Old Testament, there's a really interesting story that it gets really sanitized a lot when we're taught it in Sunday school as children. And it's not that it's a terrible story, it's just we usually don't like saying words like prostitute around little kids, you know what I'm saying? But there's this character named Rahab. She's actually one of Israel's enemies. They're about to take over this huge city called Jericho. Anybody ever heard Joshua, the Battle of Jericho? You probably heard of Rahab. But I hope you can hear it with fresh ears this morning. I'm going to summarize it. I put all of the references to it in the Old and New Testament in this study guide, and I hope that you go back later and reread that and really dig deep. But here's the gist of it. Israel was going to be claiming the promised land. And the first big victory God was going to give them was this city called Jericho. And so Joshua sends in some spies to just kind of get the lay of the land. And people debate why, whether they had good motivations or bad motivations. They were just kind of being strategic spies and going someplace nobody'd really think one of God's people would go, or who knows why they might have actually gone to a prostitute's place. But one way or another, they end up there. And nobody really knows. The Bible doesn't tell us how Rahab knew that they were Israelites. There's a lot of theory about that as well. But one way or another, something really surprising happens. This lady who you would first imagine would turn them in instantly, would say, hey, where's the authorities? These guys are our enemies. Instead, she hides them. And she says, promise me that when your God gives you the victory over this city, promise me that you will spare me and my family. Why? We don't really know why. But for whatever reason, she risked everything. To save her family, she risked her life, she risked her identity, her job. She knew her city was in trouble. She wasn't going to try and hold on to that. She risked her reputation. She risked literally everything that had ever been her and put her faith in these two strangers and their God. Because she thought, this is probably what's going to work out well. Rahab understood on a fundamental level a concept called strategic self-sacrifice. And please don't misunderstand me. I don't think prostitution is a viable, God-ordained kind of a career. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that. But even her career was a strategic self-sacrifice. It was a means to an end. Does that make sense? Even before she knew who God was, even before she knew anything about right and wrong as God defined it, she was a pragmatic person who was trying to provide for the people around her as best she knew how. But then, when she hears about this Hebrew God, when she starts hearing about this others, she goes all in. She is daring. She is 100% committed. She risks everything to save her family. And she's willing to just throw everything she'd ever been or known away to do something that she believed was the right thing to do. And then we see in Joshua chapter 6, a couple chapters after we meet her, that what happens is when they take Jericho, they save her and her entire family. The rest of her family isn't interested in following God, so they keep them alive, but outside of the rest of the Hebrews' camp. They have to kind of follow them around or eventually just go somewhere else. But Rahab actually becomes one of God's people. She actually marries a man named Salmon and becomes a follower of God. And she has a child, and we'll come back to that part of the story in a moment. But she actually doesn't just save her family. She accomplishes that goal, but she goes even further and says, I am now going to be one of God's people. Let's talk about the opposite of real love for a moment. Counterfeit love. It looks a lot the same. It feels the same, but it's not the real thing. Counterfeit love focuses on ourselves. Would you say that out loud with me? I'm just hoping this sticks. If we say it out loud, maybe it'll stick better. Counterfeit love focuses on ourselves. And a lot of times it looks the same. If you see somebody giving a gift or spending time with you or saying kind things or all the different things that we do to show love, sometimes it looks the same. It's on the inside where it's real or it's counterfeit. But counterfeit is all about us. Counterfeit is, I want my needs met. Counterfeit is, if I do this, that person might love me back. If I do this, God might love me back. If I do this, I think I'll have a better reputation. If I do this for me. And when that's our focus, we lose our capacity to actually experience real love. Because it's a different target. We're aiming at a different bullseye. If we had a target over there, and I had a gun and could actually shoot well, which I can't, I wish I could. No matter how good of a shot I am, if I'm aiming at that target, what are the chances that I'm going to hit that one? They're pretty low. The worse of a shot I am, the better those chances go up. But if I'm putting everything I've got into accomplishing this goal, and the opposite goal is over there, the chances of me accomplishing this goal go way down. And if real love is 100% based on us putting the other person first, constantly, focusing on meeting their needs, focusing on making the world better for them. And my focus is 100% on making sure I get what I want, what I believe I need. My chances of hitting that goal go pretty low. As counterintuitive as that seems. Healthy relationships meet some of our deepest needs, that's why we need them. But when we focus on getting our needs met, we actually start to hurt ourselves. It's almost like we become counterfeit love addicts. It's actually, if you know anything about how addiction works, it actually feels a lot like that. It looks a lot like that. When someone's addicted to something, they have this need, they can't even describe the need, but they're willing to do almost anything to get it, even though it's harming them. And when we get obsessed with counterfeit love, when we say, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get what I need out of this world. I'll go through relationship after relationship till I find somebody who's all about me. Because I deserve it. We do that over and over. We just end up hurting ourselves and everybody around us. Paul actually warned us about people like that in the church. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, he's describing somebody who's doing this. And he says, he is puffed up with conceit and understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy, for quarrels about words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicions, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and depraved in mind and deprived of the truth, imagining that godliness is a means of gain. Saying, if you see somebody who's going through church like that, going through supposedly Christian relationships like that, but it's all about them. It's all about slandering other people and envy and all those things. It's all about them making money. It's all about them getting power or popularity or whatever. Paul's saying, that's counterfeit love, guys. That's not the real thing. Don't trust those people. You can love them. You can try and rescue them from that, but don't follow that. Don't think that's love. Don't think that's real. It's not. He continues, but godliness with contentment is great gain. You really want to get something out of this whole Jesus thing, Paul says, this is how to do it. Godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. And now he starts warning. He's dealing with people who are manipulating churches, manipulating the faith, trying to make it all about a way to get rich. They're saying if God loves you and he wants you to be rich. That's God's plan for you. It's his promise for you. He wants you to be rich. Paul's saying, absolutely not. He goes on. He says, but those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. This is about love, not about money, but I want to just point out in the middle of that. Did you catch that? It does not say the love of money is the root of all evil. How many of you ever heard that misquoted that way? That's not what it says. It says the love of money is a root of many kinds of evils. And that's true. He's warning him about that. But it's just one of the examples in the middle of what he's talking about. He goes on. But as for you, man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness. That's doing God's will. Godliness. That's actually little by little becoming like God. Faith. That's doing every single thing we ever do based on if God is God and I'm not, how do I line up with that? If God says this is good, how do I do that? If God says this is bad, how do I avoid it? That's what faith is. Love. Which again, this is agape, this is chesed, this is others first love. This is every choice we make in life, everything we do about what we eat and where we go and what we say and what we watch and what we read and what we don't. How is this going to help somebody else? How is this going to make the world better? How is this going to make me more righteous and more godly? How is this going to increase my faith? How is this going to help me be more loving so that I can bless the world more? He says, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness. That's that chesed again. It's that faithfulness, that ongoing, relentless, unconditionally, I'm going to offer love to you because I'm offering love to you kind of love. And finally, gentleness, which again, in the scriptural sense, doesn't mean weakness. It's the opposite of that. It means you're so strong, you have to be careful. You ever picked up a baby or a little guinea pig or something, and you just know somehow or another, if I do this wrong, I could easily hurt this thing that I'm holding, this little tiny, fragile little thing. Anybody ever had that feeling? Puppy, kitten, whatever. And you know, an egg, okay? You just know it's not that you're so unbelievably godlike strong that you're just so powerful, but you know I could easily just crush this thing. And so you're careful. That's gentleness. Biblical gentleness is the idea that we are made in the image of God. We have the Holy Spirit in us. We have all this strength. We got to be careful with the people around us. How do we protect them? How do we guard them? And then he goes on, and for those of you who might have more money than me, again, this is especially for you. He says, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God. Notice he's not saying that the love of money is the root of all evil. Watch what he tells them to do, and see if this doesn't sound like the rest of everything else we're saying about love. He says, teach them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Those of you who have more resources, that's not evil in and of itself. There's just more temptations that come with that. More temptations, more infinite ways for you to be really selfish. But if God has blessed you with resources, you also have a lot more opportunities to bless others. Again, the concept here, the core concept is chesed, or agape, others first, choice, action, gift, love. That's at the core. It's not that riches are good or riches are evil. It's love is good and selfishness is evil. Are we tracking? We're about to turn the last corner here. I hope this is all still making sense. Here we go. In James writes this: you see that faith was active along with his works. He's referring here back to that story of Abraham that we started out with, where God told him to sacrifice his son. And if you haven't read that story, you need to read it. Because if you just hear that in no context, you might, wait, God wanted him to sacrifice his son. It was a test of his faith. He rescued him. It actually pointed forward to Jesus. It's a beautiful story. Abraham's son Isaac lived a long and happy life. Okay? But Abraham proved his love because he was willing to do that. He figured, hey, God's proved himself to me so far. Maybe he'll bring him back to life. And when God saw his faith by what he was doing, God rewarded that faith. So James says, you see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. And the scripture was fulfilled that said, Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And he was called a friend of God. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. Again, notice here, we've been talking a lot this whole series that salvation in the scripture is way more than just whether you go to heaven or not. When he's talking about justified here, he's not talking about that you get to go to heaven because of your works. Salvation, justification, all of those things are way bigger than that. It's the whole story. If this is salvation, this is getting to go to heaven when you die. This is the rest of it. If this were an iceberg floating in the water, you'd see 10%, 90% is below the surface. This is getting to go to heaven when you die instead of hell. This is everything else God has planned for us. When he's talking about justification by works, he's talking about all that other 90% stuff. And in the same way, he says, now notice his two examples. Abraham, the patriarch, godfather of the faith. And look at his next one. And in the same way, was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? Again, he's not saying here that she put her faith in Jesus. She got to go to heaven because of that. There was a lot more to her whole life and many other choices. That is why we're going to see her in heaven someday. Are you with me? But she was justified. Her faith was ratified. Her faith was proven to be real by works. She didn't just say, hey, I care about Israelites too. She saved those guys' lives and made a plan to get her whole family saved. She did something. She did something. In the same way was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way. For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. Another lady who we looked at just a few weeks ago and focused on her story is Ruth. Another amazing story, a foreign person who gets called into by choices, loving choices she made. She gets brought into not only the family of God, the Israelites, but the actual lineage of Jesus. And in the end, the last couple verses of the book of Ruth says this: now these are the generations of Perez. Seems like just, here comes another list of names. Skip over, get to the good stuff. Don't. Now these are the generations of Perez. Salmon fathered Boaz. Boaz fathered Obed. Obed fathered Jesse. Jesse fathered David. You tracking? That's King David, also in the line of Jesus himself. And then Matthew, when he's recounting all that, he makes it even clearer. He includes the names of the ladies involved. And Salmon, the father of Boaz by Rahab. And Boaz, the father of Obed by Ruth. And Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of David the king. These women got brought into, these foreign women, they got brought in. And it wasn't because they just prayed well, or they said nice things, or they felt good feelings towards some of God's people. They radically risked and gave up everything for someone else. And God says, that's the kind of people I want in my family. Now that's still true. Many years ago, there was a song called The Greatest Love of All. It still exists, but it was a big hit. It was the #1 hit for a long time by Whitney Houston. Before that, I don't know if you remember all the way back, it originally was a George Benson song from a movie about Muhammad Ali, but that's movie trivia and weirdness, so let's just move on. But Whitney Houston had this song, and it started out pretty well. I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Anybody old enough to remember that one? Okay, there we go. Pretty song, and you're like, oh, that's cool, that's neat, that's sweet. Yeah, I love the kids. And then in the middle it goes, I never found anyone who fulfilled my needs. It was a lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. Wait a minute. And then it gets to the big climax of the song. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Really? I like Whitney Houston, amazing singer. That's a lie. That's the opposite, y'all. That's trying to hit that target and aiming at this one. It doesn't work. The greatest love of all is the God love. It's chesed. It's agape. The greatest love of all is where we put others first. The greatest love of all is in every relationship, in every situation, we're saying, what's going to be the best thing for God in this? What's going to be the best thing for this person in this? And along the way, it does end up meeting our needs. When we love that way, somehow, miraculously, ironically, whatever you want to call it, counterintuitively, somehow or another, that's when our needs actually do get met. But when we aim at meeting our own needs, when we say the greatest love of all is happening to me, learn to love myself, watch me go, is when it all starts falling apart. So this morning, I'd like for you to make two commitments. I'd like for you to stop something and start something. First, on your little paper there's somewhere to do it. You can put it in your phone, whatever else you want to do to remind yourself. But I dare you. I beg you. I challenge you. I'm asking, please. What's something that you know is selfish, but you do it all the time? Maybe it's a whole relationship. Maybe it's something you do consistently to someone you genuinely do love, but you know that that's all about you. Stop it. Sounds a lot simpler than it is. I know it's going to be hard work, but I challenge you to write that down and say, God, because I'm going to choose what's really, truly the greatest love of all, I'm going to stop doing this. This is actually, Tennessee is actually declared to be a month of fasting this month. I don't know if you guys heard about that. It's kind of a cool idea. I don't think we need the government to tell us that that's okay. But at the same time, it's a good idea. And I'm going to encourage you, maybe social media, maybe food, maybe who knows what. It's not even about whether it's right or wrong, but you're always on that, and that makes you more selfish and more about you and less about everybody else. Maybe take a break. Maybe stop entirely, maybe take a break from something just to get rewired. But I'd love for you to write something down that at least for a little bit, maybe a day, maybe a week, you're going to stop it so we can reset. And then I'd love for each one of us to say, what is it that would help me put others in the crosshairs, others in the exact bullseye that I'm aiming at every day? What are some things that I do that actually, that is in that direction already? And I love it, and I've experienced that. What could you do to lean harder in that direction? And maybe you might be thinking, I don't know if I could ever be a loving person. I'm not sure if I could ever just be that much about everybody else. Let me tell you something. If Abraham can be in the Hall of Fame of faith, you can too. Read the whole story. If Rahab, the prostitute of Jericho, ended up in the Hall of Fame in the actual physical line of Jesus, you can too. Read the whole story. It's all about the choices we make today and how those affect tomorrow. You got a choice to make right now. We're going to stand, we're going to sing. I hope that as we sing these words that we all make this choice, that we're going to mean it, we're going to stop something, we're going to start something. We're going to be focused more than ever before on putting others first and understanding that that's what love is. But if you've got anything else, if you need to give your life to Jesus for the first time or the umpteenth time, if you'd like to join our church, if you just need prayer, I'm going to be standing right there and I'd love to talk to you about it while everybody else sings. Let's worship.